going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, Bitcoin, obviously, we have the halving coming up in about 3 days, and yet if we have a look right here, we have price falling, right? Now, why is the price falling? Well, there's actually a few different reasons. Some people are attributing this to the geopolitical tension. Others are saying maybe it is a, sell the news event for the halving, but realistically, the halving in and of itself has never really been the actual bullish moment, right? In fact, a lot of halvings have been quite lackluster. It's more of what happens after the halving that has been the really explosive moves for Bitcoin. But what I want to talk about today is what is actually going on with the Bitcoin price, right? Some people are saying it's the geopolitical tension that's happening right now. There's also some other factors in play. And what I wanted to do realistically was just have a look at what Bitcoin is doing. I want to go over a few events that are happening as well, and also discuss what we could possibly see moving forward. Are we actually due for that major correction, right? Because we really haven't seen a major correction for Bitcoin in about a year and a half. It's pretty much been up only, right? So I want to go over some key levels, and keep in mind, guys, this is not like, if the price changes in the next day or in the next couple days. This is more of a midterm outlook of where Bitcoin could be in this cycle and what we could be expecting. So I want to have, if you want to look at the shorter term right here, basically Bitcoin was in this pennant formation. We had a little bit of a fake out and we did fall to the downside. Now, keep in mind, if we come over and have a look real quick at Bitcoin and these drawdowns, if we have a look basically from the bottom right here, Bitcoin has been putting in pretty much consistently around 20% drawdowns, right? We have a 23% here. This one right here was about a 21%. This one from here to bottom was about another 21%. The most recent one, which was the sell-off of the ETF news, that was about a 21%. And currently where we're sitting right now is only about a 15%, right? So, if history was to kind of look around that 20 to 22%, you're looking somewhere between a $56,000, $58,000 Bitcoin. Now, does that need to happen? Well, I will discuss that, but obviously some of the reasons right now, one of them is just that tax day happened yesterday, right? I don't know why this says Wednesday, April 17th. Maybe I'm confused because tax day was definitely yesterday. But my point is sometimes, unfortunately, people that are, exposed to certain types of assets, whether they be stocks or Bitcoin or whatever, sometimes you don't actually have a choice, right? You have to pay your taxes. So, occasionally you sometimes see sell-offs around tax season, right? On top of that, just to point out, like Root mentioned, a lot of the ETFs have stalled due to de-risking or the fear of war, right? Obviously, war does create uncertainty. What's actually interesting is BlackRock does continue to see some inflows, but most of the other ones are either negative, and of course, Grayscale, as usual, remains negative. Obviously not neutral, negative, right? And if we come over here and we have a look at what the S&P is doing, the S&P was treading along right here, inside of this parallel channel. We finally broke out above it, but currently we are falling back into it, right? So again, the same way that Bitcoin is getting hit with these uncertainties, we are also having, these risk assets like stocks, for example, also falling. So a lot of people are wondering, well, what does this mean? I mean, it's not the first time that we've ever had this type of geopolitical tension. So, I mean, if you just look really quickly at how markets tend to react, obviously Bitcoin has not been around for all of these different wars, but, they go through World War II, Korean, Vietnam, Gulf, etc. And for the most part, on the day, you see a bit of a dip, about an average of 1.2%. The total drawdown is usually no more than about 5%. Obviously, we have had some, larger drawdowns in history, but days to the bottom is about 22 days, so a little bit less than a month. And by the time it recovers, it's a little bit over a month, right? Right around about 45 days. So ultimately, what this chart is telling us is that even though sometimes when we have these types of events happen, you do see that uncertainty, but on average, roughly 45 days, 47 days after, you tend to see a recovery, and generally the markets continue to move to the upside. Now, of course, no one is rooting for war. War is a terrible thing. It's not something that anybody wants to happen. But realistically, if that's the main concern right now, then ultimately they don't tend to last very long, right? Eventually the markets readjust, they reevaluate the situation, and they realize that, okay, I guess things aren't as bad as we thought they were. And of course, I'm not oversimplifying that war isn't bad. I'm just statistically trying to point out, what tends to happen in these types of situations. And even like, Not Grubel's pointed out, If you look at the Bitcoin price chart right here, this is October 8th, the day that they had the original attacks on Israel. And you could see there was a little bit of uncertainty, but then the markets did, in fact, continue to just move to the upside. So we're going to talk about all this today. I'm going to show you my sort of midterm areas of where we could see the Bitcoin price going. And honestly, these, in my opinion, would be buy the dip opportunities. You know, I mean, if you're dollar cost averaging, that's great. But, you know, these are the realistic levels that we could pay attention to. And what's actually crazy is there's a lot of confluence right now on the charts. It seems like they're all kind of showing the same thing. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. Before I do, though, if you guys are trading right now or looking for a place to trade, Blowfin is a newer exchange. Not that new. They've been around since January, but they are non-KYC, and they do have high withdrawals, and they also do have bonuses right now if you guys are interested. Like I said, I do believe that there's a lot of buying the dip opportunities coming up, and you can get $3,500 in bonuses if you guys want to check out that link below. But let's start here. Let's start here with some news, and then let me get into everything that's going on. So the Hong Kong Bitcoin ETFs did get approved. They also approved Ethereum as well. But what's interesting is that they are settling this in kind. So, you know, like Matt points out, that means that they have to actually have the spot Bitcoin to settle. They don't want to settle in dollars, yuan, renminbi, you know, all this, right? Now, for example, what we're doing right now, thanks to the SEC, for example, because they want to settle it in cash, everything right now in the ETFs in the United States are settled in cash. Now, they do have to hold the spot Bitcoin. So that means if there is demand, they do have to buy it. Right? So that would technically, theoretically be good for price. Also would be bad for price, right? But it's actually cash settled, whereas they are doing it in kind, right? So they are able to actually send Bitcoin and receive Bitcoin as well. So you could say that in a way, they might even be a little bit more bullish or a little bit more pro Bitcoin over there than maybe the BlackRock is over here, right? So that was kind of some big news that I just wanted to point out. And, you know, hey, just to mention, not to talk about altcoins, but I did want to mention, you know, we just had an interview the other day, and you know I don't do interviews very often on this channel, and we did it with Ordinals Bot, and the price of Trio I posted, it was up 88.6% in a sea of blood, literally. And if we come over here today, you can see it's up 91%, and, you know, it's still continuing to move to the upside. So again, I'm just pointing out there are opportunities in these markets. Yes, a lot of altcoins have taken hits. Yes, Bitcoin has taken a hit, but, you know, these are projects that I believe are going to really shine throughout the bull market. So, you know, again, you know, check out Trio if you guys are interested. Totally up to you. This thing to me could easily hit $1 billion market cap, and it's only fully diluted at around 133 right now. But I digress. Let's get back to Bitcoin, because that is sort of the big coin, right? That's the daddy that everybody's looking at, the granddaddy. So like Jelly points out, it's kind of playing out similar to 2014 to 2018. And you know, when you do approach these all-time highs, you generally don't blast right through them. This is just a fact. In all previous instances, we've consolidated around the previous all-time high, you know, give or take around sort of a month to a month and a half, right? It's not common that you just slice through it like butter. And I know what you're saying. Well, we already did put in a new all-time high. We did, but we really didn't hold above it, right? So it's still showing us that we can't quite break above that resistance. Now, once we do break above that resistance, it tends to be freaking incredible, and that's usually when you see the massive, insane gains for the bull market. But again, a lot of people want the price to go up. You know, we all want the price to go up, but then it's also a bittersweet moment where it's like you kind of wish that you had an opportunity to buy cheap one last time. Bitcoin usually doesn't provide that opportunity, but potentially due to the circumstances unfolding today, this could be a possibility. And also, guys, just so you know, I wanted to get this video out because I am supposed to catch a flight to Dubai for Token 2049. So I wanted to get this out because I don't know when I'm going to have another video. So let's really assess the situation right now, right? So we've been having these 20 to 22% drawdowns. In the previous cycles, we've had up to 30 to 40%. We haven't seen that yet. And if we have a look at this parabolic trend, this is the same trend that we had Kevin Svensson on the channel. He was discussing, you know, we still have not really broken it. Obviously, it depends on where you put your, you know, where you move this parabolic trend. For me personally, I'm just keeping it on, you know, touching these major levels. And, you know, if Bitcoin was to fall straight down today, that puts us really seriously right here at around the $56,600 level. So, you may not want to see the price go down to that level, but it could be a buy the dip opportunity, which I do believe it would be in this cycle, because again, there's nothing on the indicators that are saying that this run is over. There's nothing that I've seen. I mean, maybe you've seen something that is saying that this run is over. It's just possibly a little bit of a cycle correction, right? The same way that we had the S&P in a parallel channel. We had Bitcoin having a little bit of a bear trap down here. And you could say that maybe this is a temporary bull trap up here, right? And it's insane how these levels work out, because if I zoom in, you could see perfect retest down here. And again, if you were day trading this, these are great levels to trade, right? You bounce right off the heart line, you hit the top of the resistance, you come back down here. Now, this doesn't, make out of the question that we could come down here, because you can also expand these levels too. This is actually really cool, guys. Check this out. So if you actually just expand these levels, I'm not going to move the angle. I'm just going to pull this down, sort of to the bottom here. I'm going to pull this up to the top here to the, look at that. Look at that confluence, guys. It's still hanging around these areas, So, could Bitcoin fall straight down here? Possible, but the reality is you're generally not going to see this happen, right? What you're going to see is, something like this, maybe bounce up, fake out, retest, we come over here and then set in a base, somewhere like there. Maybe we come back down to this cluster right here. And if we keep on moving forward with the confluence, you could see that we have been hitting these areas, right? We had the point 236 that I believe we should have hit the last cycle. And moving into the current cycle, where are we at? Well, if we look at where about the 0.786 is on this cycle, that puts Bitcoin at around $57,428. Now remember, this is not immediate. This is not saying this is going to happen tomorrow. It's not even saying that it's going to happen. It's just saying if you have a midterm outlook and you assume that we're having a correction, the most likely area that Bitcoin wants to fall is the 0.786 is around 57,428. Could it dip lower? I mean, the 0.618 down here is coming in at around 48,468. Is that possible? Yes. Is it likely? At the moment, not really. Not that likely. But we have to play, we have to play it by ear. We have to see how it goes. Falling below that would be a big problem. Like if we see Bitcoin fall below 48,004 and hold there for several weeks, then we have a serious issue, and then we're going to have to change, all of our outlooks on this channel. But right now, we're not there yet. There's no reason to panic. That's talking about something that has not even happened yet, right? The most likely area, according to this, is a nice retest, potential healthy retrace at around 57,400. Now that is according to the Fibonacci retracements, right? If you want to have a look at these moving averages, you could see that generally in bull markets, once we get above these, we have these golden crosses. Specifically have a look right here at this green line. This is the 21 exponential. This is the one that we tend to interact with the most. Now you can see right here, as we're in a bull market, it tends to act as our support. Once we enter a bear market, it tends to act as our resistance. And it's pretty much consistent throughout all these markets. Currently right here, we had a very similar scenario. The last market cycle was interesting with the double top. You could say things got a little muddy around here. But, I mean, you could play this the same way, because once we got above it, price continued to the upside. Once we got below it, price continued to the downside. So fast forward today, right here, we came very close. We didn't even really touch it. So, if we have a look at where this level is currently at the time of making this video, it's around $55,000 even, okay? So again, there's that confluence between 55 to 57,000. And remember that this is going to move up, right? This moving average over time is going to do something like this, right? It might start to flatten out, but by the time Bitcoin gets down there, that could also provide that confluence with that area, right? I mean, if you're looking on the weekly, yes, we do have 52. So is that a possibility? Yes, again. But, falling below ultimately the $50,000 area is where you'd want to start worrying. And I've talked about the similarities in this pi cycle indicator. This doesn't necessarily mean that history has to play out exactly the way that it does, because that's just not reality. They rhyme, but they don't repeat exactly. But as you could see down here, we were doing a very similar thing where we were having this constructive pattern being held down, though, by resistance for about 4 weeks. Now, if we come over here, we've been held down, if you want to count this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 so far, 8 weeks, actually. So about 2 months. So we've doubled it, right? There's always that theory about maybe it's a lengthening cycle, things are different. But generally, once you start putting in that base and you have these moving averages starting to converge, you really don't tend to go below that. So, and I'm not making these numbers up. You guys can see right here. Look right here in the corner. I don't know if you guys could see that. The bottom of this is sitting at around $55,000. So I think you guys can understand where I'm going here. I'm not saying we're going to go to 55,000, 56, 7,000, but I am saying that that's where a lot of these indicators are lining up. And if you were hoping for that drawdown, over 20%, that may be the area to pay attention to. Because if we kind of just zoom in, let's just see where that would be from top to bottom, coming down to that area, that's about a 25% drawdown, right? In that area. So, maybe we're not going to get the 30%. Maybe we get the 25%. But again, there's no denying that we are consistently putting in, just to draw sort of a quick trend line right here, we are still putting in this constructive pattern. I mean, yeah, could we come all the way down here? Possibly. Would it still be bullish? Technically, yes. But if we get a larger drawdown, like one of those 40%, 50%, that will probably play back into the 4-year cycle. And then it would kind of just say, hey guys, maybe we just kind of front ran this a little too fast. We got a little too excited before the halving, and we're probably going to end up with the typical 4-year cycle. If we do continue on these 20% to 30% drawdowns like we've been having at these levels, that may suggest a slightly shortened cycle, or there's the possibility of a mid-cycle correction, right? Where you could have this crazy 50% crash. Everybody thinks the market's over, and then we actually extend longer than most people think. But for the most part, just to summarize, the areas to look for Bitcoin to ultimately, I'm not going to call a bottom because you don't really know, but the area you would look for is around the $55,000 to $58,000 area with the possibility of a wick, right? You could have those liquidations cascades where you do have a big wick that comes down, and then everyone's like, oh my goodness, Bitcoin did go below 48,000. Now we're in bearish territory, only to then close that wick back above the level by the end of the week, right? You can have a lot of things that happen on the daily, but you want to have a look at the larger picture, right? And like Rect Capital pointed out, if we are looking at it based on these previous standard halving cycles with a lot of this confluence, you could see right here, here's the halving. We pump before it, and then the halving is relatively neutral. It's actually a red candle. And then we have a correction, right? What did we do here? This is COVID, so let's just ignore that for a second. But, it's not like we instantly pumped. The halving had a green month, but then we had a red month following that, right? Not as extreme of a correction, but then, either way, yes, we have our dip, we have our buy the dip opportunity, and then Bitcoin pumps, right? Same thing here. We have our opportunity, and then Bitcoin pumps. So, you can see we're having this red candle. Coming back over here, we're having this red candle. So could we have a month like this? Sure. That's not out of the question. This isn't anything, crazy or unforeseen, for a Bitcoin price action. And, we could have that correction and then continue like we did in all of the previous halvings. Now, I just wanted to point this out. I did post this over on Twitter. You might have seen Peter Schiff. He's been super excited about the fact that gold is doing well and all these other, things are falling. But let's just really break down what this guy is celebrating. So I know I omitted the x-axis. I should have kept it on here so you guys could see the dates. But the actual bars are the same. You can see I drew them out here. So Peter Schiff is saying buyers who believe in digital version of gold must ask themselves why gold is up 1.9% today, recording its highest closing price ever, while Bitcoin ETFs are down 5%. Well, guys, if we go all the way back here, okay, in 12 and a half years, gold is up 26.4%, which by the way, it actually went into almost 9 years of being underwater. So that means, yes, it had an all-time high, and then all of these investors that had to sit underwater for 9 years, and keep in mind, this isn't even including inflation. Meanwhile, in the exact same time, this is the exact same chart for Bitcoin, Bitcoin is up 804,000%. And I'm not trying to say that this, I'm not bashing gold. I'm just saying that, Bitcoin tends to be the better choice. And, obviously up here, a little bit lower today, but, this is where everyone's freaking out. Zoom out on the chart. This is the chart of Bitcoin. And, this is where everyone's freaking out, right? So it just kind of puts it into perspective. And I wanted to end today on that sort of gold Bitcoin debate, because it is a debate that we talk about a lot on this channel. And there was this really awesome, over on Fox Business, this thing where Peter Schiff was talking to Natalie Brunell, again, trying to prove his point. And I just wanted to end on this clip because I think it really still puts it into perspective why, Bitcoin is ultimately, like Larry Fink said, the flight to safety. And even though you may see that sort of risk, I guess it's still looked at a risky asset, you may see the sell-off now, it also tends to recover even faster, right? So, looking back at this original chart right here, noticing that you have about 47 days to recovery for the standard stock markets in these type of wars and geopolitical events, if we have a look at what Bitcoin is capable of doing, it's usually able to do a 2 times to 3 times that and front run it in the opposite direction. So ultimately what I'm trying to say is this may just be the last buy the dip opportunity before the halving, and I wouldn't be getting too freaked out until we see something worth mentioning. But again, just watch this clip, and the next time you hear the gold versus Bitcoin argument, just play this clip for them.
Bitcoin is going much lower than this. If Natalie were smart, as soon as this segment is over, she would sell all of her Bitcoin, because if she doesn't sell it now, she's going to sell it later at a much lower price.
All right. Well, them's what we call fighting words. And I think there's similar drivers for both, but let me introduce the two. Natalie, meet Peter. Peter, meet Natalie. All right, Natalie, some choice words for you. What would you tell Peter?
Oh, I know, Peter. And you know what? Bitcoiners don't feel the need to constantly attack gold because we're not threatened by gold. And the reason that we have this failed fiat experiment that has impoverished our nation is because of the defects of gold. The fact that it's not easily portable, it's not easily verifiable, it doesn't offer instant final global settlement. And so you know what? Centralized authorities hijacked it. They papered over it. And we have a system of leverage and rehypothecation that hurts the working class. Bitcoin is immune to all of that. It is the savings account for billions of people that we really need and can most rely on. And it offers that final global settlement that we need. And so gold is the analog version of sound money, but Bitcoin is the digital version. And that's why it's going to be the faster horse in this race.
Peter?
There's nothing sound about Bitcoin. It's losing the race right now. Take a look at your screen. Gold is up $25, $26, and Bitcoin is getting clobbered. There is no flaw in gold. Gold worked great for 5,000 years. The problem is the flaw is with governments. The flaw is with human beings, not with gold. But Bitcoin is really flawed because it doesn't have any actual value. Gold is the most useful metal on the periodic table. That's why it's money. Now, it has great characteristics that make it better money than other commodities, but absent its intrinsic value, it couldn't be money. And Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. It's just a digital string of numbers. And all of this is just a bunch of hype.
Anything could be money, right? On the island of Yap, they used to have big stone money. Anything could be money if people use it as an exchange. And this is the thing.
But that's because
But here's the thing, though. You have to admit, Bitcoin is on the rise. Wall Street has embraced it. And this is just a tiny speck. I mean, could you imagine, Peter, at the rate of recognition, if Bitcoin keeps going at this rate, it's hard to deny it could go substantially higher.
Now, I just told you it's been dropping for 2.5 years. That's when it made
an all-time high recently.
And I think that decline is going to accelerate. It does not keep going up. They suckered in a bunch of people. Wall Street didn't embrace it. They're just trying to make a buck off it. I mean, these big Wall Street firms aren't buying any Bitcoin with their own money. This is their customers' money that are dumb enough to buy it. They're just booking the bets. They're operating the casino. They're not at the blackjack tables or the roulette wheels. That's their customers that are doing that.
Natalie wants to jump back in.
If you look at the short term, Bitcoin is going to be volatile. But if we zoom out, Bitcoin has outperformed gold. In fact, when Hamas attacked Israel, since then, Bitcoin is up 125% and gold is up only 27%. So let's really look at the numbers that we're seeing. And the best thing about Bitcoin is, again, no one controls the ledger, whereas gold is really vulnerable to centralization and top-down control, which is why we need a system that is a neutral place to store your wealth. We need a neutral system and protocol.
even compare.
That is Bitcoin
Peter,
for the
why
digital
can't someone
world.
own both?
Bitcoin.
Why can't someone have exposure to both?
Yeah, well, first of all, Bitcoin has outperformed everything. So don't compare it to gold. It's outperformed stocks, real estate, bonds, collectibles. That's because it's a gigantic bubble. No, if you want to own Bitcoin, I don't care. If you want to lose money in Bitcoin, go right ahead. Doesn't bother me. But I'm trying to help give people advice as to what to do with their money. And if they want to have an investment portfolio, Bitcoin has no part in it. But, you know, if you like gambling, if you want to take some of the money that we're going to take to the racetracks or buy lottery tickets with or go to Vegas, if you want to take some of that money and gamble on Bitcoin or any of the other 20,000 cryptocurrencies that are out there, go right ahead. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I don't want to buy any Bitcoin. I mean, sure, had I bought Bitcoin years and years ago when I first learned about it, yeah, I could have made a lot of money selling it now to the greater fools, but I didn't do that.
That's something
but
he
I'm not
said
going
on
to
my
make the
show. He
mistake
wishes
of
he
buying
bought
it now.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. So Natalie, bottom line though,
But
is
I'm not going to buy it now. And Natalie, you're going to wish you sold Bitcoin. Mark my words.
All right.
You're going to be ruining the day.
We
I
take all of this stuff,
If
Peter.
I'd only sold my Bitcoin, I'd have had a lot of money.
We got 30 seconds left. I got to give Natalie the last word.
I think the American dream has really been hijacked. We tried gold. It didn't work. It was papered over. That system has failed the American people. And Bitcoin does provide hope for us, the working class. We want to be able to work for something that has to be measured by a free market so that we can see real value emerge as opposed to being captured by politics and bureaucracy, which ultimately is a system that benefits the few at the expense of everyone else. And it's a system in which the politically connected and the special interest groups really are at the top. And so we need a system that is for the people. Bitcoin is for the people.
So ultimately, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys like this kind of content, you know, like, subscribe, comment, helps to push this video out, share it, you know, just to kind of calm the nerves. Maybe you have a relative or a family member who just recently bought the Bitcoin ETF, or maybe you're new to crypto. You know, keep in mind, this pullback isn't even as bad as the previous 4 that we had leading up to this, and it was still just an up-only environment. And until you break that structure, until you break that, I'm not even just talking about the parabola, I'm literally just talking about a constructive higher highs and higher lows on the midterm to long term, then the short term is really just a bunch of noise. Yes, you can day trade these levels. And if you guys do want to trade, by the way, Meta Signals, they are in version 2 right now. And of course, like, not everything is a winner, but for the most part, the winners certainly outpaced the losers. We had a phenomenal week last week. This week, you know, wasn't necessarily as great as the last week, but ultimately, as long as you're using your stop losses, you should still be profiting more than you're losing overall, unless you're going against your strategy. But if you want to check out Meta Signals, guys, I do have the link below in the description for that. And they are actually going to be rolling out the USD soon. So if you guys don't want to purchase an NFT, you can get the annual access to it, but keep in mind that will be renewable. So, you know, if you want it, you're going to have to pay for that every year. Whereas if you do want to get lifetime access forever, indefinitely, with all the future updates, including the Rev Share program, which is going to be coming out at some point this year, then the NFT is probably the best bet for you. But ultimately, that is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. Like I said, I don't know how the content's going to be. I'm traveling to Dubai. Apparently, it's like tumultuous rain out there right now, so I don't know if my flight's going to get delayed, etc. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is I tried to make a video today that was a bit of a more like midterm video with a lot more potential data, you know, not trying to like figure out what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, anything could change. You know, I could be wrong, and we never go down. We don't go down to 55 or 57. Maybe we just flatten out soon and continue to the upside. But realistically, after these types of moves, it's actually more healthy to have these corrections than it would be if you just continued going up, because it's like the faster you go up, the harder you crash, and probably the quicker the cycle is going to be over, right? So that is where I'm going to leave this video today. Again, you guys are awesome. Thank you again. Hope you're having a great week. Don't panic. Don't freak out. If you are, maybe you're over allocated, maybe take a little bit of chips off the table. You can always sit in a little bit of stable coins if you want to buy the dip. That's totally up to you. But again, I'm not in panic mode. I'm just in kind of neutral accumulation. This is what Bitcoin does mode, right? So that's it for me. If you guys do want to learn how to trade, check out these tutorials right here. There's a lot also on risk management, and there's over $70,000 in bonuses below. Obviously, don't keep your coins on exchanges if you're not trading for obvious reasons. You should get cold storage and all that other stuff. But until next time, guys, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.